Happy Friday, episode 77. If we haven't met, I'm Kat with Tada by Kat Next Level Staging and Design. And this is Kat's Home Chat, where we discuss all things home, anything that can happen in the home. We've even had a sex therapist. That happens in the home, right? Exactly. So I'm super excited today because I have a stellar realtor in the Houston area who is my guest today, Dena Musfy. And Dena is with Compass Realty, and we are going to discuss, she's going to share some of her magic about some really cool features that Compass has, one of which is she's going to explain the details of it, but it's a concierge service. So if you have thought, well, I'd like to sell my house, but I don't really have the money to remodel and get it show ready to get top dollar, stay tuned, share this, what have you, because Compass has a program that will help you do just that. We're also going to talk about some of the systems in place and things if you're a first-time buyer, or even if you just haven't bought or sold in a while, what you need to know, what you need to line up first before you just start looking at homes online or go out and to open houses to set yourself up for success and for a win. So stay tuned, and without further ado, let me bring on my esteemed guest, if I can get my mouse working here. Here we go. Welcome, Dena.
Hi, Kat. How are you? I'm doing great. It's Memorial Day weekend, so
it is. It's Memorial Day weekend, and however you celebrate Memorial, take a pause to really honor the folks that gave the ultimate sacrifice to defend us and defend our country. And then, not without saying, I know everybody's heart is heavy, especially in Texas, but everywhere with the shootings, the just horrific.
Yeah, let's not talk about that. That's going to start. I'm like,
oh. I know.
I'm like, oh.
I know. It's just unfathomable to think about the pain, and our heart and prayers go out to the families,
parents, everybody
affected. Yeah.
Involved.
So let's change our energy.
Yes, please. I'm like, please.
Let's talk about the concierge, and we're going to keep this to a little bit shorter, maybe 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes, because Dena has a coach call. She's always staying on top.
Always trying to grow myself so that I can offer more to my clients.
I'm constantly training, signing up for classes, whether they're online or in person, so that I can be the best and offer the best and the latest and the greatest, and I know you are too.
Absolutely.
So let's jump right in. Tell us about concierge services with Compass.
I think you did a great intro to it. It's kind of like if you haven't sold in a long time, if you've been living in your house for a long time, you just feel like you don't have the cash, or you're just overwhelmed with how much you think you need to do on your home. We have a service that Compass provides that we can come in, we can assess the home and give you kind of the best bang for your buck type advice. Like, maybe you think you need to redo the cabinets and you need to redo your bathrooms, and you need to redo maybe you don't have to do all that. Maybe it's a simple flooring change. Maybe it's a simple, whatever it is, maybe widening a door space because, back in the day, houses were made with narrower spaces and stuff. Yes. Maybe it's just opening that up, and that'll open up the whole house.
I love that, Dena. To a certain degree, when I do consultations, particularly, occupied consultations, not so much vacant, but as professionals, your realtor and your stager can give you the best advice for, as Dena calls it, the best bang for your buck. Because, like I had a seller who, he put like $1,000 fan. There's a fan company called Big Ass Fans. How much do you pay for that? Yes, like, okay, maybe in your home, maybe if you got that kind of money to burn, but
if you're going to live in it, not when you're selling it.
Not if you're going to sell it. So there's, as Dena mentioned, there's certain ways, and through her concierge service, they can guide you to where you will get the biggest return on your investment with those improvements. And how does that work financially? Walk us through that, Dena, how that looks.
Absolutely. So they already have contractors and a list of contractors that you can use. What they do
you have to use their contractors?
Well, I'll get to that in one second. So we do pay for the service up front as a company. and then you don't have to pay for it until closing. When you get your funds
Wow.
from your closing, they actually at the title company will take that funds out and pay back Compass or whatever company it
Wow.
was that provided the finances for that project. Now you
Wow.
can submit your own contractor as well to
Okay.
get vetted and pre-approved and added to the list, but then there is a cost to the actual vendor or to the contractor, that goes to the company. Obviously, they have to pay for it somehow, right?
Right.
So there is a cost that comes from the contractor to the company to be on that list. But obviously, sometimes that's a benefit to the contractor because they'll now be on the list for future people to be able to use when they go into the sponsored service.
Okay. So they become a part of that vendor list.
Absolutely. Okay. So I guess it's a win-win really all around. A lot of people, I understand, just don't want, they're in the middle of buying a house and, your lender's telling you not to spend the money, keep the money in the bank, because we want all the finances to be good.
Oh, that's such a good point, Dena. When you're really sensitive, say you're on the border for those credit points that you need, the last thing you want to do is be pulling out your reserves, because in lending, they're looking at the reserves, your income, your debt to income ratio. Those are kind of what I call the three legs of the financial.
Your DTI is so important.
Yeah. So that's a great one. You don't have to pull out, whatever, 10, 40,000, whatever it is.
And it can get really expensive depending on what you're doing. But, if you're, especially in this market.
People want move-in ready, right? Yeah, there's some, out the investors who will take, the rehabs and the fixer-uppers and the what have you. But for regular consumers, buyers, they usually want move-in ready. And
it could be as simple as something painting the house. That's the thing. Sometimes people overthink things. So it could be as simple as just change the paint color, and that will already open a space. And have you come in and put some pictures on the wall and things like that. And so it's something simple. It's not having to redo all the bathrooms and redo everything, I mean, it's a good combination with you and the concierge service to really come together and make the house presentable, because all it has to do is look desirable in pictures, which get people in the front door, right?
That's your first showing is online. We just did it. It's going to be listed at about $1 million near Katy, gorgeous on like acreage with a pond behind it. And I'm real up front. So when I do the consultation, I'm like, what's the price point? I can tell you right now, this doesn't speak to $1 million buyer. Inside, I mean, it's got great features, a pond, ducks, acreage, etc. But we need to bring in some power pieces to elevate all the brown on brown, and etc. And
I love that you mentioned that you can actually just, people just automatically think of staging as a vacant home. They don't think of staging of being able to come in and, and that's something that Kat does amazing. Like she can come into your house while you still live there. And maybe it's as simple as moving some furniture around, adding
that's a
some
huge
color.
factor. This particular one I'm talking about, they had 3 couches just by taking one couch out, sticking it in the garage, repositioning it, bringing in some color, some greenery. The room just came alive. I mean, the sellers were blown away, literally blown away. And they were very motivated because they're like, they have a house in another state they want. They need to sell this and they need to get top dollar for it. So we're going to start doing more and more of that. My team loves it because it's so transformative and it's very creative.
Absolutely.
Because you have to say, you have to think outside the box. And, you mentioned something, and I always forget to put this out there. We started it with COVID, and that is the pay later. So with your concierge plan, you pay later on that. My company also now has on individual case basis where you can pay 50% and the rest can be paid off in escrow. And we just, like you guys do, have escrow, put it in the payoff. Because, a lot of people are like, well, I'd love to stage. I see all the homes, they look great, but I don't have that to invest. And, but they have plenty of equity at the back end of it, just not up front. So we started offering that, kind of during COVID and have continued. I always forget we do offer that. We're in a position to be able to offer that. But I love that on the teaming up and with the larger items with renovations and, or is there a minimum? That's what I wanted to ask you. Is there a minimum on the concierge service?
There isn't. There isn't a minimum. Like I said, it could be as simple as just painting the house, which could be
and so it could be just a few $1,000s and they would apply, that would apply under the concierge. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
What about a luxury? What about a luxury staging? Luxury staging can be up there, between, $2,000 to $4,000 a month with a 2-month minimum. So let's say $6,000 to $10,000 for a 60-day on a luxury vacant. Is that something that, if you were the realtor, that you could have that financed under this concierge?
I don't know. I haven't really worked with the concierge in that capacity, but I definitely can get back to you on that. That's something I would love to, partner with you on that and get back to you. Most of it has been just remodeling and painting and stuff like that, but I'm not sure if they do staging, like that.
All right. So make a note. Let me know on that.
Absolutely. So we'll get back to you on that.
We're at about halfway because I want to be sensitive to your next appointment as well as mine. So let's just jump into new buyer, or maybe not even a new buyer or seller. Average statistics is 5 to 7 years. So there's a lot of moving parts and pieces. When I was
even lending documents go from this small to like this big within such a short period of time.
And that's just the documents. There's a lot of moving parts and pieces, negotiating, inspections. People think the price is the only thing that's negotiated, but there's multiple in the contract, multiple things to be negotiated. But let's talk about from the get-go. At the top of the show, we said we're going to talk about what you need to do first. Don't go out and start looking at homes. And certainly if you're a realtor, don't drive people, especially at gas, if what it is, looking at homes before they're qualified, not just for your sake, but to, set their expectations. You don't want them to fall in love with a $500,000 home and they're only qualified for $350,000. So walk us through the absolute, what's the first thing a newbie, just new to whether they've bought a home before, but what should they line up absolutely first?
Okay. I did want to go back to your mentioning the contract. I always tell people every single line in that contract, every dash and X box is negotiable on that entire contract. So there are so many boxes and things. So definitely make sure that your realtor really knows the contract. Talk to them that up front, about what things are negotiable and all that. But I think the first step is always interviewing realtors, right? Everyone has, family members, cousins, 5 best friends. I mean, here in Houston, we have 55,000 plus agents, in the city. So I think that that's the most important step is make sure you interview your agents, make sure, and also just, you feel bad because you have best friends and you have this person. Well, allow everyone to interview. And then, you let them know that I'm going to make the best decision for my family. And if they're a good agent, they should understand that. At least they got the opportunity and maybe they just didn't fit the needs at that time. But it didn't mean that they didn't think of you or give you the opportunity. So I say that to agents and I say that to buyers.
And it goes both ways. My client yesterday was doing a virtual interview and I said, I'm going to give you a tip of advice here. As someone who's been around the world a few years, make sure you remember you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing
Absolutely.
you. And so that goes with interviewing whatever. I tell design clients, let's do a discovery call, see if we're a good fit. Mm-hmm. So it's no judgment. It's, let's say you're interviewing a potential seller and they don't want to do anything. They don't want to clean the house. They're gonna restrict the showings.
And they want a ridiculous price.
You want a ridiculous price. That's the time for you to say, you know what, I don't really think we're a good fit. It's not in line with my professional practices, et cetera, and refer them to someone. So Absolutely. It's a mutual thing.
Absolutely. The next step I think that's super important is finding the right lender for you. I prefer to always refer 2 or 3 lenders that are local. because I know they will not only answer my phone call at any time, they'll answer my clients' phone calls at any time, answer questions, guide you through the process, as well as, on the weekends, if I need a quick, pre-approval letter or something like that. They're not like the big, no offense to the big banks, but the big banks, they work 9 to 5, they've got their hundreds of files in front of them. Whereas, the customer service aspect of real estate is super important, because especially in the past year, it's been moving so fast that if you aren't able to kind of get those things done, get the offers in quickly with the pre-approval and all the right documents.
Absolutely. Lender. If you're a realtor out there, if you're a seller or a buyer, you don't have a deal until it, and I'm not even say just it closes, because I've had deals in new home sales where it closed. I went to the closing table and it never funded.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of stories in real estate. So
absolutely.
Communication, being on the same time zone, critically important. You and I talked pre-show, communication. And, I try to remember to ask my clients, how through the discovery process, how do you best like to be communicated
Absolutely.
with?
Text, email.
Is it email, text? I don't do so much on social media because I'm not always on there. It's kind of a time sucker. So don't message me that way. I may not see it. How do you want smoke signals? How do you want to be communicated with? That's really, really important, I think.
It is super important.
But they should, interview a realtor, find out who's your best fit, and make sure before you get in a car, or if you're a realtor, before you take a client in the car, that you get them I think it's pre-qualified now, not pre-approved, right?
Well, pre-approved and pre-qualified are actually two different things. Right. Pre-approved just means that they just put in the system, they calculated. Pre-qualified, they've actually submitted documentation to the lender and are actually fully qualified.
Exactly. So that bears repeating, and this has just been the last few years where it's gotten more stringent. You want to be pre-qualified, not just pre-approved. Pre-approved, they can do in a second. All they do is check your trifecta, the 3 scores. That's it. They don't know what your debt to income ratio is. They don't know anything.
They know generally what it is, and they qualify you. They pre-approve you. They're like, okay, this person's approved, barring getting all their actual documentation to actually pre-qualify.
Because again, you can buy a house, you can go through all this, but if the deal falls through, and we all know.
And I'll tell you, when I get 10 offers on a house on a listing of mine, we look at those letters. We call. I mean, if you're a good agent, you're calling the lenders, making sure those pre-approvals are pre-qualified, everything before your clients accept any offers, especially with the interest rates.
Cash, you're verifying funds. Don't just tell me that it's cash.
Especially with interest rates.
Show me the money. Show me the money. Where's the money?
Interest rates are changing so quickly now too. So a pre-qualified, even like what they're qualified for, changes so quickly because of the interest rates as well. Yeah. So, I think you mentioned, maybe you're looking at $500,000 and you're approved for 350, but it also happens the other way around. You think you're 350, but if the interest rates are low, you actually do qualify for like a $500,000 house because your payments are lower with the lower interest rates.
But, we all know, and that's a misnomer too, in that you may be qualified for 500, but many clients are like, I'm qualified for 500, but I only want to spend 350 because some people don't want to be they don't want to be house poor.
Yeah, so I think the reverse pre-approval is always good. Tell most of the lenders that I work with, that I partner with, tell me, how much do you want to spend on a monthly basis? Right. And then we can give you that number. So it's not that they're qualified for 500 or whatever, but they think maybe that they can only afford 300, but based on the interest rates, they actually can afford 400 for that same price that they want to spend monthly. So that's why it's really important to have someone that you can talk through, that can play with the numbers with you and do that live action. Like I have one lender that I use that actually sends a spreadsheet with, hey, if you put 10% down, this is how much you're going to put. If you put 20% down, if you put 5%, and he can actually play the numbers and send it to you within 5 minutes.
Wonderful. And that's so important, Dena. I love that that you're really close. Because, I think and let's talk about that too. I don't know if the stats have changed. I'll bet they've gotten higher with this new flurry in the market. A couple of years ago, the stats used to be that 85% of realtors were part-time. Now, I'm not criticizing that you're part-time, okay? However, back in the day when I first got my license 20 years ago back in California, I'm trying to get a deal done, and the other end of the deal is a school, on the playground. She's a school teacher, doing real estate as well, and I can't get anything done.
It's really important.
Full-time job. Yeah.
Super important to have a full-time agent that knows what's happening, especially in this market. It's just moving so fast. And if you're not with someone that's
and then
in there.
Circling back to the finances, that is so critical, Dena, and I'm so glad to hear that you're so close to that, because novice realtors really don't realize that they need to be proactive. You need to be, what do we have? What are the conditions? You need to be checking in, either getting a status every week or proactively checking in with the underwriter or your representative, because again, nobody has a deal. No one has a new home or sells a home unless the finances go through.
Even one note, like I have a lot right now looking like, oh, I'll live in it and then I'll Airbnb it out and stuff, and things that they don't think about are like simple things like, hey, if it has an HOA, some of those HOAs do not allow rentals or Airbnbs. So you've got to be pre-check that stuff as well, because now with the digital nomads and people traveling all the time, they're like, well, I'm not living there. I can Airbnb it and stuff. Well, I said, you got to definitely, when we look at houses, make sure, preferably no HOA, so you don't have to worry about it at all. But if they do have an HOA, you've got to check that HOA and make sure that they allow not only Airbnb, but just rentals, period. Sometimes they only allow maybe 80% of it, or 20% of it to be rented out. So if 2 houses are rentals already, you can't rent yours out. So
that's a really good point. And, if your client doesn't tell you that, you wouldn't know to research it. So, everybody needs to do their due diligence. If you're buying, you need to make sure, ask the question and find the whatever they call the articles of the HOA to make sure that you're going to be in compliance if that is in fact what you're trying to do.
Absolutely.
Real good point there. How long have you been practicing real estate, Dena?
I've been in real estate for 7 years now. So definitely in the lower side, and then the boom, the craziness, and then now it's kind of evening out a little bit. There's some things, there's still some definite moving parts, moving fast, but things are kind of slowing down a little bit as far as the craziness, So that's, nice, but I think
that's good. And I imagine that's primarily because of the interest rates, right? Are starting to.
And there's a little more inventory coming up. It's not definitely still a seller, on that side. There's still a little low on inventory, but summertime there tends to be more on the market.
Yes,
so I think the combination of the two things right now have slowed it down just a tad bit. But not by any means. Instead of selling in 1 day, things are selling in 7 days. So it's still crazy. Don't get me wrong.
And of course, I get the calls when they're not selling in it's not even 7 days. Or they've been virtually staged and they need to be really, actually staged.
Absolutely.
But I want to be cognizant of your time. We're at about 23 minutes and 20 seconds.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll come back. We'll do this again.
Yes, we will definitely have you on again. And because there's so many topics to talk about in real estate. And maybe by then I'll have gone out to your client coming up for the occupied interview. You can see
absolutely. I was actually thinking of that might be a nice gift for a client, right? To just go ahead and gift that to them.
I would say 9 out of my 10 realtor partners, they pay for the consultation because it gets their sellers on board.
Yep.
And then if they want hands-on, then that part of it, the sellers, they're like, oh yeah.
I didn't know about your occupied one. So that was what was interesting, because that client that we were talking about is actually.
I know, it made me realize, because you and I have known each other for a bit, is that, it's like people don't know what you don't tell them, is I need to make that more visible, because now that we bought the transit and had it all wrapped and everything, we can actually do a 3 key room stage in the transit. So we save, ourselves as well as our clients, a bunch of money.
So would you have us take some pictures for you of the home, and then we send it to you, so then when you go in, you could have some things to kind of advise and move around? And
the consultation is the prerequisite. So I take the pictures.
Oh,
And
okay.
they can either end at just the consultation, or then I go back and I say, I recommend ta-da, bring in a mirror, a 7-foot tree, some artwork, some surface decor, some pillows, some bedding,
I
da
thought
da
you
da.
mentioned there was a step that they just come out and do it all at once.
Yes, that's called a sight unseen. It's a $300 2-hour turnaround, and my team goes out and yeah, we just do the magic. Yeah, just from pictures. All right,
Sorry,
we're
my
going to sign
coach is
off now
calling
because
now.
okay. Well,
So
I got to go get a cupcake. My little Yorkshire Terrier is turning 2, so we have to celebrate her birthday. I have really important things. So.
1 second, coach. Hold on. I'm just finishing up
Dena,
a podcast.
what
I
is
appreciate you.
your phone number so people can reach you if they have questions?
Absolutely. My phone number is 281-935-6993. And you can
Okay.
reach me pretty much anytime. Text,
Perfect.
call, email is realtor Dena M. That's realtor DENA @gmail.com.
Perfect. And you're up here too, and this will be on YouTube within 48 hours. And thank you so much, Dena. I
Thank
appreciate
you. I
sharing all
appreciate it.
your
I
wisdom.
appreciate it.
Have a great coach call,
Thank
and
you.
enjoy your weekend, and I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks so much, Kat. See you soon.
Sign off, sign off. As always, stay hopeful, stay positive, and stay connected. And thank you so much for connecting with me and Dena today. Have a great night.